Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Before the Snap podcast. We are back. We are entering a new regime here at Before the Snap, formerly BeforeTheKickoff.com, but now that is gone. That is over, and we are ready to start anew. And we have a new guest. We have Lou here, and we have our old co-host, Chase Oliver, 68. Every week, it'll be us three coming on here talking about football. We like this cast of people, don't we, Chase?
Oh, yes, we definitely do like these cast of people. There's nothing wrong with anyone else who wants to come in and join in with us, but for the main three, for the people who are going to be the faces of this podcast, it's going to be us three, and hope everyone can understand that.
Yep, all right. So first thing we want to get into, Tony Romo. Tony Romo, 6 years, $108 million contract by the Dallas Cowboys. You know, when this news came down, a lot of people really agreed with it strongly or disagreed with it strongly, or maybe you were in the middle. Chase, where were you on this?
For me personally, I think it was a great move by the Cowboys to re-sign Tony Romo because they weren't going to get him for any other cheap cost. Let's just face it, they weren't going to get Tony Romo for that cheap of a cost. There was no way in hell Tony Romo was going to take only like $80 million. Because when you see guys like Matt Ryan, he's going to be, getting at least $100 million something that in the next 6 years. Joe Flacco's getting paid $120.6 million, and then Aaron Rodgers looming into a close, record-breaking deal. When you look at it, the Cowboys are making a smart move because Tony Romo, who else are they going to get at quarterback? There's not really a quarterback as proven as Tony Romo to them. This NFL draft, not really rich in quarterback talent. When you go look on to the free agency wire, the best quarterback there is Vince Young. So when you look at it from the Dallas Cowboys and from a business perspective, Tony Romo can put up big numbers. Yes, there's the problem with the playoffs. But even then, with those problems, Tony Romo is still a better quarterback than most of the quarterbacks in the league today. He's arguably a top 10 quarterback. He's a guy that you can definitely rely on to, be a good leader to the team. I mean, this guy is no joke. Maybe coming down to crunch time, maybe down in the December range when you actually have to start winning games, this guy is a joke. He gets ridiculed a lot for not playing big in big games, especially against the Redskins and the Giants these past couple of years, and also in playoff games. We just have to go watch Seattle and see how that turned out. In all honesty here, though, Tony Romo is still a guy that I think is worth, the type of money, because soon we're going to see all types of quarterbacks be getting this type of money. The NFL is evolving to, where quarterbacks are being paid heavily. And you don't want it to be where, like a Joe Flacco situation where what if all of a sudden Tony Romo wins a Super Bowl? You win a Super Bowl in Dallas, okay? That means you have to be the highest paid player in the league. Dallas, whether fans want to deny it or not, they're still considered by casuals America's team. I'm pretty sure if you go walk down the street right now or, go to a mall, you'll see some dude in a Dallas Cowboys jersey. Dallas is still a popular team, around the whole United States. So in all honesty here, when I look at it like this, Tony Romo being paid this much money, I feel that it's rightfully earned. Very good for a guy who's undrafted, as I should repeat, because he is undrafted in this league. Most people don't remember that. Sure, maybe some people say the Cowboys are making the mistake, but hey, you know what? Tony Romo looks like a better option than Geno Smith. Tony Romo looks like a better option than you could say a Jay Cutler or a Phillip Rivers right now. I honestly think if you put an offensive line in front of Tony Romo, watch out, because this guy can do a lot of damaging things to other opposing offenses. And also, team chemistry. Team chemistry, you got Miles Austin, Dez Bryant, Jason Witten. These guys literally love Tony Romo. They feel they can win with Tony Romo. He's their leader. And you know what? Trust in your leader. And I believe it's the smart move on the Dallas Cowboys' part.
All right, so Lou, Tony Romo, 6 years, $108 million. What do you think about this?
All right, JC, that's a lot of money for a guy that has not been past the divisional round of the postseason in his career. We're talking about a guy that's been in the league 10 years, 7 of them as a starter, and he hasn't won anything. But in his defense, I will say, Tony Romo is a really good quarterback. And there's something to be said about being the starting quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. There's something extra there. It means something when you're the starting quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. And so there's a lot of pressure on Tony Romo to win. And rightfully so. Again, he's the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. And so there's a lot of extra factors that go into him getting this deal, not just him being a really good quarterback, because I think people allow his lack of success in pressure. I think people allow his lack of success in pressure situations to really cloud their judgment on him. And they allowed it to overshadow the fact that Tony Romo is a really good quarterback. He's never had a passer rating under 90 in his career. He's always been a guy that's been over that 1-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. In the regular season, from weeks 1 to 16, the guy is money. It's week 17 and beyond. That's the problem for Tony Romo, and that's why a lot of people have a problem with this contract. But look, at the end of the day, the Cowboys were handcuffed here. Jerry Jones had to pony up and pay Tony Romo. They don't have the luxury of waiting to see if another guy will emerge. They tried Stephen McGee. He didn't emerge. They don't have any other options. And in this league, if you don't have a quarterback, you don't stand a chance. Tony Romo is a really good quarterback. And it's not all him when they lose. Yeah, he takes a lot of the blame. And when you have 3 interception games like he did against the Redskins in week 17, you deserve a lot of that blame. But there have been other times when he wasn't the sole blame for them losing games. He just takes the most criticism because he is the quarterback, and that's what it means to be a quarterback in the National Football League. But when it's all said and done, I think that Tony Romo deserves to be paid. He's a really good quarterback on a solid football team, and if they're going to win, it's going to be with Tony Romo. It's not going to be with any other quarterback. And so Jerry Jones realizes that. He had to pony up and pay him because I always remind Cowboy fans. My dad is a Cowboy fan. My sister is a Cowboy fan. And I tell them all the time, I know plenty of Cowboys fans, and they always want to talk bad about Tony Romo. And I always remind them of where they came from, okay? You didn't have Troy Aikman yesterday, okay? Before Tony Romo, it was Quincy Carter. It was Chad Hutchinson. It was Drew Henson. It was bad Cowboys football. You don't want to go back to those days. And so there is no other option in Big D. Your only option is Tony Romo. He had to be paid, and he was compensated very handsomely in Dallas with a very lucrative deal. And I must say that he's a guy that he plays consistent football. If he can just rev it up when the competition is its greatest, when the adversity hits, can he play better football? I think that with this pressure being off of him, signing this deal, not having to worry about, will I be back in Dallas? Will I hit the market? All of that is gone now. Jerry Jones has taken care of that part of the problem. That's been removed from the situation. Now he can just focus in on football. And so now Tony Romo doesn't have any excuses. Just go out and play football. This is a big deal for a guy that hasn't won, but I think it was a well-deserved deal for Tony Romo.
You know, to me, it's just, I really don't understand this, except from the standpoint of freeing up cap space for the Dallas Cowboys. Besides that, this makes absolutely no sense to me. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but I have zero faith in Tony Romo when it comes to a Week 17 or a playoff game. I have zero. I mean, regular season-wise, November, he plays some great football. But it just, when it comes down to Week 17 or in the playoffs, Tony Romo does not show up. This guy has not led his team to the playoffs. Has not led his team to the playoffs in 2 years. He failed in 2011. He failed in 2012. Both in Week 17 games. One against the Giants, one against the Redskins. He failed. And most notably, he failed in the one against the Washington Redskins. Now, against the Giants, I'll cut him some slack there, okay? They're letting the defense, the Dallas Cowboys defense was letting Rich Cruz run all over them, and, they put up too many points. But when you have a 21-18 deficit, and you're Tony Romo, and you have to lead your team down the field, you have to lead your team down the field. And not only did he not do that, he threw an interception. He threw the game-ending interception. And I understand that the Dallas Cowboys defense then let Alfred Morris get the touchdown after that. But why do they even have the ball in the first place? They shouldn't have had the ball in the first place. Tony Romo should have then led the Dallas Cowboys down the field to either get a field goal to tie the game or a touchdown to go ahead and possibly win the game. That is when a quarterback shows what he's worth. And Tony Romo didn't show me what he was worth, and that's pretty much not worth this contract. Not worth this contract. I mean, if it was like a 6-year, $90 million, okay, I may be able to give that to him. I can see why you would give that to him, but this, upwards of $18 million a year, I mean, I really don't understand it at all. And I understand that there is not a lot of money, or not a lot of quarterbacks on the market. Okay, I mean, the best guy right now is Vince Young, followed by Rex Grossman, okay, followed by John Skelton. So there's not much there this year. But I look at next year. Here's what I would have done. If I was Jerry Jones, here's what I would have done. I would have held off on signing Tony Romo until after this season. I would have said, Tony Romo, if you can lead the Dallas Cowboys to the playoffs in 2013, we will sign you to whatever you want. However, if you are unable to do that, we will say goodbye to you, and we will invest in getting a new quarterback in 2014, because next year's free agency class looks very good. Okay, and a lot of these guys could be re-signed, like Matt Ryan, Matthew Stafford. Yeah, they could be re-signed, but for right now, it looks very good. And also for right now, the NFL draft for 2014, the quarterback class, looks very good as well. So I would actually like to have seen the Dallas Cowboys be a little more patient and say, you know what, get us to the playoffs this year. Let's see how you perform this year, and then we can give you this big contract. That's what I would have liked to have seen. But unfortunately, it did not work out that way, and we'll see how it goes, but I just do not have a lot of faith in Tony Romo at all.
I just feel Tony Romo, he gets a lot of slack just because he's the Dallas Cowboys quarterback. I mean, let's face it. Dallas Cowboys, they're bigger than what most people think. They're big. And it sucks for Tony Romo to be picked up by the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, everything's big in Texas, and same with the Dallas Cowboys. Tony Romo is under such a big microscope when it comes to American media. He's probably one of the most, quarterbacks that people scrutinize the most just because he plays for the Cowboys, because the Cowboys are such a popular team to discuss about, to talk about. And, I understand where most people feel he doesn't deserve this money. But for me personally, I feel that, just because I feel, I know where Tony Romo's pressure is coming from. When you play in Dallas, it's hard to, come out of the shadows of Troy Aikman. Or if we want to go back in the history books, Roger Staubach, Captain America. It's really, really hard. But I feel Tony Romo, the Dallas Cowboys believe in him. And he's a guy that is very shifty, moving on his feet, throwing that football. He's a guy that can do many great things. But I feel Dallas right now offensively also just doesn't have the offensive line to protect him. Because I would say the Dallas Cowboys is definitely a team next year that you could say is a sleeper for a lot of people. The NFC East, it's interchangeable every year. It's either the Eagles. We don't know how the Eagles are going to turn out. The Washington Redskins, we still have questions about RG3. I mean, RG3, yeah, he's saying that he may be able to go week 1, but still, we don't know if RG3 is going to be 100% all year. And then the Giants, we don't even know where they're going to be at. So really, to be honest, the Cowboys have a chance to slip into the playoffs next year. I really do feel that, like I said, the NFC East is always interchangeable. But I feel sometimes, some people really need to understand when you play for Dallas and you're on the Cowboys roster, it's much more different than playing for any other team. Because I guarantee you, we would not be hearing about Tony Romo if he was playing in Jacksonville. We would not be hearing about Tony Romo if he was playing for a San Diego, a Kansas City. We wouldn't be hearing about Tony Romo if he was playing for those types of clubs that don't get the amount of media that the Dallas Cowboys do. I mean, guaranteed we're going to see Tony Romo in how many Sunday night games this year? 3. How many Monday night games? 2. He is already guaranteed 1 Thursday night game because of NFL Network. To me personally, Tony Romo, he has a lot of stress coming on him. He has a lot of scrutinizing coming on him. But in all honesty, Tony Romo is still a guy that I feel is worth that type of money. And yeah, he's guaranteed more money than Joe Flacco. But hey, you know what? This could end up just being a 3-year type deal and see ya bye, Tony Romo.
6 years, $108 million, Tony Romo. All right, well, let's move on to Matt Flynn being traded to the Oakland Raiders. Oh, man. Lou, let's get your thoughts on this one first.
Again, a solid move by the Oakland Raiders because they needed to be able to feel like they could move Carson Palmer. And in order for that to happen, they had to have a guy they could trust on the roster. Keep in mind, Matt Flynn was drafted in Green Bay. Reggie McKenzie, the Oakland Raiders GM, is a guy that came from Green Bay. And so there's some prior history there. He knows what Matt Flynn can bring to the table. And so he feels like he has a guy that can start for the Oakland Raiders and potentially be their quarterback of the future. We'll see. Matt Flynn has not played a lot in the NFL, doesn't have a lot on his resume. And so there's a lot of questions to be asked about Matt Flynn. But if you're the Oakland Raiders, you got to start somewhere. And Carson Palmer, 33 years old, he wasn't going to be the future. And he was slated to make $13 million. You need to get from under that contract. And so the best way to do that, get a guy like Matt Flynn, who's young, who has potential and promise. Bring him in as a guy that could potentially be the face of your franchise. And then you can move Carson Palmer, get from underneath that contract. You still got a guy like Terrell Pryor there. So there's competition there. And so if you're Oakland, it's a sound move on that end. If you're the Seattle Seahawks, you didn't want to pay Matt Flynn that money. The Seahawks and Pete Carroll kept talking about how, yeah, we don't mind paying a backup X amount of dollars. Yes, you do. I don't want to hear about anybody wanting to pay a backup a lot of money. Their backup quarterback was being paid more than their starter. That's never supposed to happen in the National Football League. And so they weren't comfortable with that situation. They moved Matt Flynn. They get rid of that contract. So it's a solid move all the way around for both teams involved. I think that the Raiders get their man in Matt Flynn, and that allows them to have the ability to move Carson Palmer, which they ultimately did. And you look at the Seattle Seahawks, they get from under that Matt Flynn deal, and that allows them to acquire some picks in the back of the draft. And so it's a win-win for both teams. They both get what they want, which is the ability to free up cap space. And in the Raiders situation, and in their case, they get a quarterback that they could move forward with in the future.
A great point on that. That also was dealt with by the Tennessee Titans when they had Matt Hasselbeck in there, who, yes, is a good backup quarterback like Matt Flynn was for Russell Wilson, but just getting paid too much money. I mean, and they made a great choice there.
I think it was an excellent move to kind of get Matt Flynn a chance to start. You know, it wasn't really smart of the Raiders to really give up, you know, their draft picks for him. I understand, but it's not the NBA. You can't give up cash. I don't know, can you in the NFL? I don't know if you can give up some cash compensation. I've never seen it before. But, you know, when it comes down to it, you know, Matt Flynn is a guy that, for me personally, you know, seeing him in LSU for so many years that he was playing, I really liked what I saw out of him. I knew that he was going to be a guy that will go into the NFL draft, won't be drafted in the first round, be drafted in the third or fourth round, would go to a team with an established starting quarterback and be a backup for them. And then once that starting quarterback is either a dud or a bust or doesn't want to resign with the team because that team's not giving them money, then comes Matt Flynn. And Matt Flynn, you know, last year we thought we were going to see him in Seattle, but Pete Carroll, you know, everything's going on in Pete Carroll's brain. Pete Carroll knows his players. He knows his personnel. He knows who will fit his system. You know, judge Pete Carroll all you want. This dude is a mad genius sometimes when it comes to football. And he chose Russell Wilson. Everyone was kind of like, why are you going with this rookie? And look at Russell Wilson now. He's probably one of the more popular players in the league. He's someone that, like, a lot of people, a lot of short people, you know, get inspirement out of Russell Wilson. I mean, the dude's 5'10". You know, there's so many guys in high school football today that probably look up to guys like Russell Wilson and Drew Brees because of what they're doing in the NFL and saying, hey, I could actually do this. Because, you know, guys that short shouldn't be balling like Russell Wilson should. So, you know, Matt Flynn just seems like he's in a tough predicament. The only problem is with this trade is that they're picking up Matt Flynn's contract. Because, in all honesty, I understand how much Matt Flynn signed for, but still, this is still a quarterback that you guys haven't tested as a starter. He's only started 2 games. One game, he almost came close to defeating, I believe they were facing the Chicago Bears, because Aaron Rodgers suffered a concussion. He came close to beating them. And then he does what no other Green Bay quarterback has done, score 6 touchdowns in a game, but that was against the Lions defense. That was against a very, very bad Lions defense. Yes, a playoff team Lions defense, but still very bad. So in all honesty here, Matt Flynn, yeah, he looked good in the 2 games that he was playing, but is he worth that contract? Is he worth starting throughout those games? And let's not also forget the talent he had around him in Green Bay. Jordy Nelson, Greg Jennings, James Jones. I mean, right there in itself, that's a lot of talent. And when you come to the Raiders, who do they have? Demarius Moore, not Ryan Broyles. Who was that one guy that Carson Palmer wanted to throw to all the time? Rod Streeter. You don't really have that much talent to throw to. And then the offensive line itself in Oakland, Darren McFadden, is this guy going to be healthy? Is Darren McFadden going to be that healthy guy and play 16 games this season? That would help Matt Flynn a lot if Darren McFadden was healthy. But the thing is, Matt Flynn, he still has a lot to prove. But I really feel it was a smart move. They needed a new young quarterback. They obviously did not want to go in the route of the NFL draft, which is understandably so. I mean, when you see the AFC West, Charles Peyton Manning. And then the Chiefs, they showed, hey, we ain't rebuilding. We ain't going for any of these guys. Let's get Alex Smith. You need to compete. You need to compete in this division to stay, to stay relevant, really, in the division. I mean, the AFC West, even though we think the Broncos have it all wrapped up, they're still the wild card in the AFC. And the Raiders are hoping to make it to the playoffs. And I hope they don't get rid of Dennis Allen if they do, because I feel you need to keep Dennis Allen at least for 4 years. I believe he's the youngest head coach in the NFL. I believe he has the right mindset to fix this Raiders team. The Raiders weren't as penalized as they were last year in the NFL. So in all honesty here, he's doing something right. He's doing something right, and that's what I like about Dennis Allen. He's getting rid of all the trash that the Raiders had on that team. He's smart, and I feel they need to give him 4 years before they decide, oh, you know what, let's get rid of him, because you need to believe in your head coach, and I believe Dennis Allen could actually repair the Raiders sooner than later.
Matt Flynn to the Raiders, well, Dennis Allen, I think, to me, I wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders struggle this year if he's gone. And I think he knows that. So he wants a quarterback that he can rely on. And he believes that Matt Flynn is that guy that he can rely on. He thought Carson Palmer would be that guy. But unfortunately, Carson Palmer just was a little too interception filled, for lack of a better term. But honestly here, I do think the Oakland Raiders got better. All right, I'm not a big Carson Palmer fan. I understand that the touchdowns will be there, but that is because you're going to be forced to run that quick offense when you're down, because the Raiders were down a lot, and then when you're down in games, coverage gets a little more soft, and then you can go down, get a touchdown, but those touchdowns really won't mean anything at that point. So that's why I don't put much faith in a Carson Palmer at this point. We'll get into him going into Arizona later. But, for now, I like it. The Oakland Raiders, I kind of disagree with you. I think I like their weapons a little bit. They got rid of Darius Hayward-Bay. That's what they felt they needed to do. He was kind of a cancer in the locker room, but they still have Denarius Moore, Rod Streeter. They lost Brendan Myers in free agency. He's going to go to New York. But I think they're going to go, they picked up Kellen Davis, that's right, whom I actually like. I think Jay Cutler in that situation really didn't work out, but I do kind of still like Kellen Davis. So I think whoever can go in there, they're still going to have a good offensive line. However, the running back position is a problem. Can Darren McFadden stay healthy throughout a 16-game NFL season? I don't think so. This guy hasn't been able to do it yet. I don't think he's ever going to do it. This could be his last year in Oakland, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's gone and he never signs with the team. I wouldn't be surprised. It's going to be a make-or-break year for Darren McFadden. But ultimately, I will like this Matt Flynn going to Oakland scenario. I do think that he's going to flourish in Oakland. I think he's going to be better than Terrell Pryor. I love Terrell Pryor, but I do think Matt Flynn's going to beat out Terrell Pryor. I think the Oakland Raiders can win about 7 games maybe, and improve, and then they'll keep Dennis Allen for another year, and then the year after that, Oakland can make some moves. But they really have to now focus on rebuilding that defense. That defense has lost a lot of key players. I don't even have to name them all. They've lost so many guys. They need to start rebuilding that defense. And then once they do, then they'll be poised to finally try to get back to the playoffs. Now, the thing we have to get back to about Oakland, Carson Palmer being traded to Arizona. Chase, what are your thoughts on this one?
I honestly don't know if they're trying to make Carson Palmer into Kurt Warner 2.0. Ken Wisenhunt is not there. He's in San Diego being the offensive coordinator. So I honestly don't know what they're trying to do. I mean, it's much of an upgrade than Kevin Kolb, who's in Buffalo now. Better than John Skelton. Brian Hoyer. I can't even name you all these quarterbacks that they had starting last year. It was ridiculous. And he is a better upgrade. And it's not like Arizona sucks at the receiving core. I mean, they have Larry Fitzgerald there. They have Andre Roberts. I am personally a fan of Andre Roberts. I really like how this kid plays. I think he's a very good talent. But so when it comes down to it, it's just, for me personally, Arizona, it's hard to compete in that NFC West. The Rams are going to keep on getting better and better. Jeff Fisher knows what he's doing with the Rams. The 49ers, potential Super Bowl team coming out of the NFC, and same with the Seattle Seahawks because they just got Percy Harvin. So when you look at this, it's kind of like, okay, what are they going to do to take that huge step forward? What are they doing to take that huge step forward? I mean, Carson Palmer, yeah, nice addition, but you still need to pick up a quarterback in the NFL draft. And I feel they will pick up a quarterback in the NFL draft, whether it's Ryan Nassib, Mike Glennon, who I think would fit perfectly in Arizona's system if given the chance, because he's just like Carson Palmer as a quarterback. And if they're looking for someone that has a strong-ass arm, Mike Glennon is that type of guy. So, in all honesty, Carson Palmer will be someone that I think that will help improve Arizona, but not make it to where Arizona is a playoff type of team. Like Arizona will do what they did last year. I think they will start off kind of strong, stronger than what most people are expecting because they're going to be facing a weaker schedule. They're going to beat a team that's supposed to be more elite than them. And then afterwards, just like last year, they'll go into a slump. But what I think it will be more of like 2 losses, 1 win, and then the rest of the time it's mostly losses for Arizona. So, and they also need to improve on defense. So, smart move by Arizona to get Carson Palmer, and but not really that good for the Raiders because they didn't really get much for him. I mean, 5th round pick, and it's the Raiders draft, so I don't know. Honestly,
Larry Fitzgerald loves his signing. I mean, there's a reason why, because they haven't had a quarterback in there for years now. I mean, his worst year this year, and people are going to say that he's getting old. No, he's not. He's 29 years old. Larry Fitzgerald is not old. Okay, he is the 2nd best wide receiver in the NFL. Don't tell me Victor Cruz. Don't tell me Hakeem Nicks. He is 2nd. Calvin Johnson is number 1. Larry Fitzgerald is number 2. I don't care about this lack of production he had this year. Look whom he had at quarterback this year. Ryan Lindley, Brian Hoyer, John Skelton, Kevin Kolb. 4 individual quarterbacks that were in there in that quarterback position. Brian Hoyer, who was brought in from New England as a last-minute add-on. Ryan Lindley, who was a 3rd-string quarterback. John Skelton, who had a quarterback rating of 55 for the 2012 NFL season. And Kevin Kolb, whom was never healthy. Okay? So, ultimately, Arizona needed a quarterback that could throw well, and they got it. Now, is Carson Palmer great? Hell, no. I mean, I won't even say if he's good. He's decent. I mean, he is a decent option at quarterback at this stage in his career, but he is still miles better than what they had. Even though I do kind of like Kevin Kolb, and I do think if he was healthy, then the Cardinals would have had more success stringed along the season. He missed 7 straight games. They lost all 7 of those games. However, ultimately, the Cardinals got better, and that's all you want to do.
First, I want to say congratulations to Larry Fitzgerald. I'm so happy for him. I feel so bad year in, year out. I watch film. I break it down. I watch every game. And I get tired of seeing Larry Fitzgerald get wide open and guys just miss him, whether they don't throw him the football or they just absolutely misfire. It's a travesty. I'm glad to see him finally getting another veteran quarterback in there that can get him the football. This reminds me of the Kurt Warner deal. And if we all remember, Kurt Warner came over from the Giants to Arizona. It looked like his career was winding down. He revitalized it in Arizona, and he ended up taking them to the Super Bowl. Larry Fitzgerald needs a guy that can get him the football. Carson Palmer is in that same twilight stage of his career like Kurt Warner was when he came to Arizona. And I feel like Carson Palmer has a lot of football left in the tank. If you watched him in Oakland last year, he did a lot with a little bit. And there's a lot left in that tank, and I think that he's going to come in, fortify that quarterback position, and Lord knows they need it in Arizona. They really struggled at the quarterback position last year, the year before that, the year before that. And so they could use a veteran like Carson Palmer to come in and not only be a presence at the quarterback position, but be a leader in that locker room. They're starving for a leader at the quarterback position in Arizona, and they didn't waste any time in Arizona. Bruce Arians, the head coach, said, I want to announce my starting quarterback and introduce you to Carson Palmer. So they didn't waste any time letting you know that there's no competition in Arizona. This is his job, and they needed a guy to come in and take over in Arizona to be that starting guy. Carson Palmer is going to be that. And for the Raiders, you look at that side of the trade. Look, they gave Carson Palmer away for a hot ham and cheese sandwich, a juice box, and a Macintosh apple, and a bag of Frito-Lays. But that's okay. They gave him away for a bag lunch. But that's fine because the real key for them was getting under that contract. They wanted to get from under it, give it away. $13 million was what Carson Palmer was on the hook for in Oakland. Way too much money for the Raiders' liking right now for what they're trying to do. They're trying to revamp that roster, turn it over, get guys in there on the cheap. And so a guy like Carson Palmer, who took minimum last year, wasn't willing to go back and not get the full amount of his money this year. And so I couldn't blame him for not wanting to take a pay reduction. And so the Raiders knew they had to do something drastic. They made the trade. They get from under the deal, free up that cap space, which is well needed in Oakland. So you can't fault them for basically giving him away. They needed that cap space, and that's what this deal was really about for the Raiders, getting from underneath that cap space and really giving them the flexibility to make moves in the future and not be handicapped by one player in Carson Palmer. So the Arizona Cardinals get the quarterback that they need. They also end up restructuring his deal so it's cap friendly for the Cardinals. Instead of him making $13 or $16 million in this season, he restructured his deal. It's a 2-year, $16 million deal now, and he's slated to make 1 year, $10 million in 1 year. And so essentially the Cardinals can get out of this thing if they don't like what they see from Carson Palmer in next year. And so it's essentially a 1 year, $10 million deal with the option to bring him back for a second. This deal could get up to $20 million, but it's a more cap-friendly deal than it was in Oakland, and it's a more cap-friendly deal now for the Arizona Cardinals because if it doesn't work out, they're not tied to Carson Palmer moving forward. So it's a good deal for both teams involved. Again, both parties got done what they needed to in this deal.
Yeah, exactly. They got better. It's better than what they had now, but they still need to draft a quarterback to back up Carson Palmer because he's up there in age, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I really do think if Carson Palmer never got injured in that Steelers-Bengals game in the playoffs, the Bengals could have actually done something in the playoffs. I mean, Chad, Ochocinco, TJ, oh my God, that was a great Bengals team. But yeah, Carson Palmer should do well. I just don't think the Cardinals are going to ultimately compete in the NFC West. I mean, that is probably the toughest division in football right now.
All right. Well, thank you all for checking out Before the Kickoff podcast for Lou, Chase, and see, there it is. You see, guys? All right. All right, that's it. Thank you for checking out the Before the Snap podcast. That's right, the Snap podcast. Make sure to check out our website, BeforeTheSnap.com. Make sure to follow us on Twitter @BeforeTheSnap. Make sure to like us on Facebook, Facebook.com/BeforeTheSnap. All those links are in the description box. And while you're in the description box, you might as well just subscribe. You might as well just do it. For all of us here Before the Snap, keeping you updated 24/7, we're out. Peace.